I've done like 5,000 comic classes by now. You try coming up with something original to open this show with. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron, and welcome to another episode of Comic Class, the show every single week on this channel where we just geek out about comic books. And today we're talking about Flash Wars, which wrapped up in today's issue number 50 of The Flash. Now, when Flash Wars was announced and they were teasing it, I was a little bit hesitant because it looked like the premise of this was going to be Bart Allen going head-to-head with Wally West. And oh my goodness, it's the two Flashes of two completely different generations going head-to-head. Holy cow, who is going to come out on top of this? And yeah, listen, superheroes fighting each other, it's fun. On some level, all of us want to know what would happen if that hero went up against that hero. I understand the appeal of it. I used to think it was really awesome. But then it feels like we had a decade of comics where that's all we got. Where heroes didn't even really fight villains all that much, they were just fighting each other. So now these days, whenever I hear that storyline is coming out in which a hero is going to be fighting another hero and that's the big appeal of it, I get a little bit hesitant. I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't really need to see that again for a while. Also, Wally West was lost in the time stream, in the Speed Force, for a long period of time. And he finally came back, and he came back because of the love that he and Bart Allen had for each other, because they were each other's lightning rods. It was great that they pulled each other back into this reality. Oh my goodness, I love seeing the bond between those two. And Wally has just been tormented and tortured ever since he came back. So, it kind of feels like this idea of, oh, we finally got Wally back, and now he's going to be fighting Barry. I don't know how I feel about that, but I gotta say, I should have known better than to doubt this run on The Flash, because this run on The Flash has been not my personal favorite. As I mentioned earlier today on the Thorgy's Picks show, the Jeff Johns run is my personal favorite run on The Flash. But man, after this storyline, this is a close second. This entire run on The Flash has been spectacular. And yeah, this might be the high point of it so far for me. Man, I remember when they announced that Joshua Williamson would be writing the Flash series, and I just looked at that and I was like, the guy who became famous for writing a comic all about a town full of serial killers? That guy is going to be writing your character you keep trying to promote as your most hopeful hero? I don't see how that's going to work, and man, it has been doing nothing but working non-stop. Yeah, that shut my mouth. I was wrong on that one. We'll totally come in here and admit that. Happily admit it, because man, again, it has just stunned me how Joshua Williamson not only understands this character, but understands every part of this character. And this storyline, Flash Wars, really was kind of just a tribute to the past of the Flash, especially to Wally West. I was reading this, and as I mentioned earlier today on Thorgy's Picks, I talked about how the Jeff Johns run was my personal favorite run on The Flash ever. This felt like the spiritual successor to the Jeff Johns stuff. Like, this felt like it went, hey, you know all the stuff that they built up in the Jeff Johns run? We're finally bringing all that back, and we're moving it forward to the next level. In fact, I even mentioned in that Thorgy's Picks episode how I felt like Jeff Johns took all the stuff that Mark Waid had established and really moved that forward. Man, it now kind of feels like Joshua Williamson is doing that with the Jeff Johns stuff. But let's get into what this book is actually about. And yes, there are going to be some spoilers for anybody who has not read this yet. But in all honesty, as I said, I've done like 5,000 comic classes by now. You should know this is basically just comic book, the spoiler chat. So anyway, we're going into this series. It started off with Wally West, who had been back, and he has slowly been returning memories of the years that were stolen from everyone when he goes around and interacts with everyone. But a lot of people have been wondering, okay, when is he finally going to talk to his Aunt Iris? They always had an incredibly close connection, but he's been avoiding her, which I understand. I mean, the moment that Iris learns that, hey, I had another nephew who I forgot about, and he was also a Flash, and there's all these years that I have completely forgotten about, and the rest of the world has forgotten about, that's going to be a game changer. But they finally came in here, they did it, she remembered him, oh, very heart-touching moment. But as soon as she remembered him, all of a sudden, Wally also remembered everything. There were a couple of memories that Wally didn't have either when he returned, and I had kind of been waiting for this moment, and I had actually been wondering if it was ever going to even come, because when Wally returned, he even mentioned, yeah, okay, it's hard to hold on to all these memories at the moment, and we saw him interacting with the Titans, and we saw his memories of being with the Titans, but those memories weren't exactly the same. They were now twisted and different as well. They were now made to match this new universe that he was in. But when you see him gain all those memories back, you see the old Titans. You see Robin in the short shorts. Like, that is how far back they went on this, in which they were like, yeah, no, everything. He remembered everything. But it also got revealed that someone had been pulling all the strings in the 25th century. Somebody had been sending time travelers back to investigate all of this, and they now had some big master plan, and they were going to try and pull all the Flashes to the future to confront them. They revealed it was Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom. Again, not to keep pimping out that other show that I did a couple hours earlier today, but on Thorgy's Picks, I was mentioning how much I love the Jeff Johns run, and one of the things that I loved about the Jeff Johns run was the villain of Zoom. Zoom is probably my favorite Flash villain of all time, and the moment that he popped up here, I was genuinely shocked. I was not expecting that we would ever see him again. But there he was in the future, and he had some big master plan to make the Flashes better again, because that was his entire plan from the beginning. So now he not only had Wally to mess with, he had Wally and Barry to mess with. But that was all the prequel stuff. That was the lead up to Flash War. That was just setting the table. When Flash Wars actually began, it started off with this image of Wally and Barry yelling at each other's throats while the sky is being torn apart, and Wally says, if you don't help me, I'll make sure you never run again. And that immediately left a bad taste in my mouth, because I looked at that and I just went, I can't imagine Wally ever saying that. Like I said, one of the reasons why I wasn't really looking forward to this event going into it is because I was like, I can't see Wally and Barry fighting each other. Those two guys just love each other too much. I can't really buy that that's a thing that would happen. What on earth would get them to this point? So when it began, it was like, I'll make sure you never run again. I was like, oh, not only do I not like this image of the two of them fighting, that doesn't even sound like something that Wally would say. Like, Wally isn't that type of guy. Yeah, I'm kind of nervous. But then it cuts to like 40 minutes before that happened. And you see Iris and Wallace West, which that's something that they have kind of basically established. The Wally West that was created for the New 52, now there's two Wally West, and they're kind of like merging the timeline so that both of them exist at the same time. They've come in here and said, yeah, we're just going to call the New 52, the brand new, the younger Wally West, we're going to call him Wallace West. So for the rest of this video, when I call him Wallace West, you know which one I'm talking about. So they come in here, they have Wallace West talking to Iris, and they're talking about how the Flashes are going off to rescue someone, and they're trying to stop this big tsunami that's happening. And then the two of them come up and appear. Barry and Wally come running up, and they're talking like, oh, hey, you really helped me out on that one. Oh, why, thanks, old chum. And when I was reading that, I completely missed the part at the top of the page where it said 40 minutes earlier. And I thought this was just a continuation of the previous scene. So as I was reading it, I was just like, oh, that Flash War was over with quick. I guess that's all resolved. I mean, in all fairness, if there's any character out there who could settle a giant argument between two characters in the span of a couple of seconds, it's the Flash. Yeah, the Flash could resolve something that quick. Is the rest of this storyline just going to be a couple seconds in between those two panels, but it's all just going to be stretched out for 4 issues now? That seems kind of a weird way to tell a story, but alright, you do what you want to do. Then when I went back and I checked again, I saw the 40 minutes earlier. I was like, oh, okay, I gotcha. Alright, I understand. I'm smart. I'm with you now. SMRT. Anywho, then all of a sudden, the Renegades show up. And the Renegades were these characters from right before Flashpoint started, back when we were still in the old continuity, in which they were these time cops from the future who, for some strange reason, had taken on the appearance of Flash's Rogues Gallery, except they were now like heroic versions of them. It was really kind of an interesting idea, but because Flashpoint came in here and erased all that, we never really got to see them fleshed out. But they all popped up here, and they're even mentioning, yeah, we knew something went wrong with the timeline, so it's no surprise you guys don't remember us. I was like, oh shoot, DC is now full on just coming in here and saying, yeah, no, all that stuff is canon. We're just, yeah, we are slowly just bringing everything back in here. And they take these characters to the future. Wally gets separated from the rest of them, and he ends up finding Hunter Zolomon. And Hunter Zolomon is telling him, yeah, don't you remember everything that you lost? I can make you better. The Flash needs to be better in order to go and save all the people that were lost. Like your kids, Wally? Yeah, they flat out come in here and they go, does anyone else remember that Wally had kids right before the New 52 came in here? Before we erased Wally from continuity, and then we brought Wally back, and Wally's been trying to reestablish his life, but no one has ever mentioned the fact that he had kids, and those kids are now gone. Wouldn't that be a thing that if he had all his memories back, he'd be kind of obsessed with? That had been a question that I had been asking forever. It felt like that was a huge thing that really did need to come back at some point in time, and they finally brought back. So when they finally addressed that, I was fully invested. I was in on this storyline because that is indeed a great premise for this story. One of the reasons why I was really opposed to this idea of, oh, we're going to have Wally fighting Barry is because I was like, what on earth is it that could tear them apart? Is it some different ideology? Are they being manipulated by a villain out there? I don't really buy that. No, it's your kids, Wally. That's what's doing it. He has to go and save his kids, but he could end up destroying the Speed Force if he does it. And Barry's like, well, hold on now. Do we even know if this is going to work? You could destroy everything. And then when you go back and you think about that's the reason why Wally is going to be going against Barry, because Barry doesn't want the Speed Force destroyed, but Wally will do anything to save his kids. You look back at that starting page where it has the two of them like going head to head, and Wally's like, I'll make sure you never run again. It's like, oh, make sure you never run again because he's going to destroy the Speed Force, but he's going to destroy the Speed Force to save his kids, which what parent out there wouldn't destroy the Speed Force to save their kids? Like, okay, this whole problem I had at the beginning of this entire storyline, resolved. I now understand it. I should have known better than to doubt this writer. Holy cow. And honestly, I thought the Flash twins were just gone. I thought they were never going to be brought up ever again because the Flash twins got introduced late in the previous continuity. Like, they're not like Wally, where we all spent decades with them, just forming an attachment to them. We got to know them for like 2 years, and then all of a sudden they were just gone, and we didn't even really get to know them. There's a problem when it comes to having superheroes have kids in comics. Don't get me wrong, if you guys have watched this show before, you know I'm constantly talking about how I want to see heroes get older. I want to see them get married, have kids, start the next generation of heroes out there. I don't want to go into a comic book store 30 years from now and pick up a comic and everything is still exactly the same that it is today. I want to see these heroes actually progress and go on and move and grow and do all those other verbs. But there is a problem with that, which is that comics move at about 1/4 the speed that the real world moves. So if you wanted to have a hero give birth to some kids, and then those kids eventually grow up and become heroes themselves, even if they become like kid heroes at like the age of 10, it's still gonna take like 40 years for that to happen, and no one's willing to wait for that. So what happened with the Flash twins is that Linda and Wally had their twins, and then almost immediately after they were born, they got sucked up into the Speed Force. Then they came back. But years had passed for them, and now these kids were like 10, 11, 12 years old. And you look at that and you're just like, oh, I don't really have the attachment to these kids that I'm supposed to have because I didn't really get to spend much time with them. And don't get me wrong, that works with some characters out there. Jonathan Kent is a great example of how that did end up working. But even Jonathan Kent, we got to spend time with him before he ended up becoming Superboy. But when it comes to the Flash twins, it was like, oh, they're born. Now they're superheroes. It's like, yeah, okay. So I just don't have that connection with them. And that's one of the reasons why I looked at them and I was like, yeah, I don't know if they're ever coming back. Because there aren't that many readers out there like really screaming and chanting, let's get the Flash twins back. Because nobody really had that time to form that connection with them. So the fact that this storyline actually came in here and said, yeah, no, they still existed and you're their dad, wouldn't you kind of want them back, even if it meant destroying the Speed Force in order to do it? And they didn't just bring up the Flash twins, they brought up all the old Speedsters. They said that all the Speedsters were still trapped in the Speed Force. We had to do something to get them out of there. And that leads into this issue in which Wally is running as fast as he can to try and break the Speed Force, and Barry is running aside him, just arguing with him, trying to get him to stop. And I love that every other superhero on the planet is pulled in to try and stop them, and no one can. Like Superman starts racing after them, and there's this great image of the two Flashes in the front just arguing with each other, and then in the background you see tiny Superman just screaming out, and like you can barely even see like a whisper of what he's screaming at them, and then Superman just has to finally stop and go, oh my god, even I can't catch up to them, which is great. I've always said that as powerful as Superman is, the one thing the Flash does is he runs fast. He should be the best at that. It's kind of like swimming. No one should be a better swimmer than Aquaman out there, otherwise what's the point? So yeah, I love that they had that in here. But they even came in here and they had Green Lantern build this giant barricade for the two of them to run into, but he was going to vibrate at the perfect frequency so it would slow them down, so that way it wouldn't kill them. They just decimate that entire thing as they run through, and Hal is just like, that almost destroyed my ring. I've never seen them run this fast. And one thing that I have to point out is this is drawn by Howard Porter. And Howard Porter, when I was growing up, he was one of my favorite artists out there. And he got into an accident not that long ago, and a lot of people were kind of worried about, oh man, is he ever going to be able to get back into the game of drawing, at least drawing as well as he used to? This is the best I've ever seen from Howard Porter. This is the top of his game. I was stunned reading these issues. He was doing beautiful art in here, and this issue here, where it was just the two Flashes racing against each other, that's one of the best looking Flash issues I have ever seen. And he didn't just do the art, he also inked this too. So yeah man, he was doing double duty on this one, and he pulled it all off. I am so glad to see Howard Porter back at the top of his game. This guy stunned me with every single panel. There is one panel in this issue of the Flash running, I'm sorry, I should clarify, Wally West running, and it's like, okay, fine, I agree with you, Wally. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to help you get your kids back, which, again, this whole argument between the two Flashes, I love that it got resolved. And it got resolved through them running. That's always kind of been how the Flashes think. It's like, I need to think, I go for a run. So the two of them were racing each other, and they didn't really like fight. They didn't come to blows. They just kind of yelled at each other until Barry finally agreed, all right, I'm on your side. It's like, okay, if that's the Flash war, I'm fine with that. I'm totally okay with that being the big fight between these two characters. But then when Wally says, all right, fine, we're both on the same team, time to go as fast as I can, and Barry can't keep up with him, and Wally goes to like the next level, and you see like his body unraveling, and now he's just got this blue, electric blue Superman look to him, just like he is unraveling. He looks kind of like that future Barry looked in that New 52 storyline. It looked gorgeous. I love that one panel in there. So yeah, I just had to come in here and make sure to stop and praise. Howard Porter knocked this issue out of the park. But so they do it, they break open the Speed Force. They don't destroy the Speed Force, but they break this force barrier that they're talking about, and now the energy from the Speed Force is unleashed, but so is the energy from these other forces that we've never seen before. I had to go on the DC Wikipedia page and look this up because I was like, is this a reference to something old? Like, is this something from like way back in the Silver Age or something? Where are these coming from? No, they're completely new ideas. This idea that there isn't just a Speed Force, there's a Sage Force, which controls like psychic powers and like any kind of mental abilities, but there's also the Strength Force, which that one's kind of obvious, it gives people super strength. And Hunter Zolomon pops back up and he goes, yeah, I didn't mean any of the stuff that I said. Listen, I've been trying to make you, Wally, a better Flash from the start, and you never did it. You never went through with it. You were never really going to do what needed to be done in order to be the best Flash that you possibly could be. So someone else has to do it. And Hunter Zolomon breaks out the classic Barry Allen Flash suit, which it's so weird to me that I'm not kidding you on this. Earlier in this exact storyline, I found myself looking at Barry's costume and the new costume that he's had ever since the New 52 began, and I just kept looking at it thinking, man, I wish it was the old design. I wish it was the simpler Flash costume, because now he's got all these lines on him. And don't get me wrong, you want to add some new lines to his costume? That's alright. I kind of like the ones going up and down the helmet. You want to put the ones on the shoulder? That's okay. The ones going straight up and down his legs? That's alright. That makes sense. But then he's got just random ones going across his abs, just a whole bunch of ones on his thighs. And I'm just like, it's just too much. It's way too much. You need to simplify it some. I kind of miss the old costume. And then Hunter Zolomon pops up here and goes, yeah, I stole your old costume. I'm wearing this now because I'm the Flash. he comes in here and he basically says, I am done trying to make you, Wally, the best Flash that you can be, because you're not going to do it. You're not listening to me. I have threatened to kill how many of your loved ones, and you've never gone to the point that I expected you to go? You have never actually done the stuff that a true Flash needs to do in order to stop me? Well, guess what? I'm the Flash now. Look at me. Look at me. I'm the Flash now. So he becomes the new Flash, and he says that he is going to run into the Speed Force and basically alter all of time and space. He is going to completely reshape the universe to make it the perfect utopia that everyone wants. And he's now got the Sage Force and the Strength Force on his side, so he can now use mental attacks and psychic abilities, and he can also use super strength. So you've got Wally and Barry chasing after Hunter Zolomon, who is running faster than they could possibly imagine. Even they can't catch up to him. And there comes this moment in which Barry tells Wally, listen, this is why you're different from me. I've always looked at the Speed Force as a science. I've always been obsessed with the science of it. You've been obsessed with the fun of it. You've been obsessed with just how good it feels to run. That's why you're the better Flash. That's why you can always beat me in a race. And they finally came in here and they said for a fact, yes, Wally is faster than Barry. Which, for anybody who is a longtime Flash fan, you know in the old continuity, yes, Wally was faster than Barry, because Wally got to be the Flash for longer than Barry did. Barry disappeared. Wally kept on running. Wally stuck around for a while. Wally went from Kid Flash to the regular Flash. So ever since Wally ended up returning back into this universe where everyone had forgotten about him, I've been looking at Wally like, okay, are you still faster than Barry? Did your powers get bumped down a little bit so that Barry can now be the faster Flash? So yes, on a personal level, just as someone who always preferred Wally West over Barry Allen, I'm very glad that this storyline came in here and it said, yes, Wally is still faster than Barry. I appreciate that. I know it's a small thing. I know I should not be obsessed with that, but I did enjoy that. But the way that Wally now ends up defeating Hunter Zolomon is that Hunter is now actually tied to the time field. He's tied to the thing that the Flashes run through when they break through the Speed Force and start traveling through time. And Wally is kind of a temporal anomaly. He has all these memories from a time that doesn't exist anymore, and every time that he experiences one of these memories, it causes kind of a rupture in the time field. So he's been trying to fight these memories because it hurts him so much, and he's afraid of what might happen if these memories kind of end up destroying him. But Barry tells him, you've been running from your memories. Embrace them. Embrace everything that happened to you. Remember it all. The good, the bad, remember all that. And he starts using these memories to actually fight back against Hunter Zolomon. And there comes this great moment in which he is actually able to shape these memories into living constructs, and he actually attacks Hunter with these memory constructs of Jesse Quick, Impulse, Max Mercury, like all the old speedsters from the old continuity. He brought them all back for one big attack on him. Again, to someone who was a fan of Wally West before the New 52, man, it felt good to see that. For somebody who just loved the legacy of all these characters, who loved the history of all these characters, and has been waiting for all of them to return, seeing them all actually come back, that was huge. Even if it wasn't really them, it was just weird constructs. But it was still that, like, hint at the audience, they're still here, we haven't forgotten about them, don't worry, they're coming back, they're all gonna be okay. But again, you want to just talk about how Howard Porter just knocked it out of the freaking park? There is one panel here in which it's the big climactic moment of the two speedsters going head to head. You've got Wally charging in at Hunter, and throughout this entire fight, because they're running through time, you keep seeing panels from old Flash comics in the background. When they charge at each other, they just put up behind them that cover from that famous issue when they had their first big confrontation with each other. And yeah, that is one of the best Flash panels that I have ever seen. Like, oh man, you want to talk about something that just talks back to the history of these characters? That just comes in here and goes, this is why this is a big deal. This is all the stuff that's referencing back to. That gave me such a big nostalgic gut punch. That was that one moment that made me go, this is everything I've been waiting for. It's the history of these characters all coming back into one big confrontation. That's one of the reasons why I hate when people come in here and try to do big reboots. They try to go, well, let's just forget that stuff from the past because it makes it too complicated. No, don't forget the stuff from the past. Use the stuff from the past to make bigger impacts in the present. And that's exactly what this fight did. So this storyline ends with Hunter Zolomon defeated, but he's disappeared. So Wally has to go out there and try and find him. But as he's searching for him, the renegade Captain Cold from the future, man, that's a weird sentence to say, is stuck here in the present. And it says the reason he's stuck here in the present is because the Flashes, they didn't destroy the Speed Force. It still exists. It's still around. However, they severed its connection to temporal energy, meaning Flashes can no longer time travel. Time travel just can't be a thing for speedsters anymore. Which seems like an interesting thing to throw in there, because it's like, oh man, that could change everything. Except the Flashes have always kind of had as a rule, you shouldn't use your powers to time travel. So it kind of seems weird that they're coming in here and saying, oh, you can't do that thing that you swore you would never do. Because, yeah, they would still use their powers to like go into the future for like an adventure, like, oh, there's a villain in the future that we have to stop, so they can't do that anymore. But that really seemed like the only way that's limiting them. But again, that might play into a storyline that they have planned coming up later on down the road, so I'm going to wait and see what they have planned on that one. But not only did they sever its connection to temporal energy, they also cracked open the force barrier, which, as I mentioned, now means that there isn't just a speed force, there's a strength force and a sage force, and I'm really wondering what's going to happen with that. How does the strength force affect people? Because speedsters all get their power from the speed force. Does that mean that anyone with super strength gets their powers from the strength force? Or anyone with psychic powers gets their powers from the sage force? Does this mean that strong heroes out there and mental heroes out there are now going to become even more powerful? Or does it mean that new characters are going to start springing up everywhere? Yeah, this issue ends with a lot of questions about what is going to come in the future, especially the last big reveal of this, which is that Barry is running. He's talking about, all right, you gotta have hope because new things are on the horizon. He does that thing that all heroes do, where they give you that big speech at the end of every single storyline. But then it cuts to one final panel in which we see, yes, the Flash twins did not return. They are not back. You know who is back? Impulse. Bart Allen broke out of the Speed Force when the two of them charged into it. Bart Allen was able to escape, so now Impulse is finally back. And I actually kind of called this one, because earlier in this storyline, like way early in the storyline, when Wally first meets Hunter Zolomon, Hunter is talking about all the things that are lost, all the other speedsters out there, and how you can bring all the other speedsters back. All of them can come back. And as he's making this speech, the word bubbles are like wrapping around these three statues of Impulse. Like it's three images of Bart Allen there as Impulse, as Kid Flash, like all of them just right there. And the word bubbles are like specifically wrapping around them. And I'm like, I know what you're doing. Bart Allen's coming back, isn't he? But it really felt like this issue was wrapping up. I was like, oh, I guess he's not coming back. And then there was that last big reveal of Bart Allen is back. And I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy that Bart is back. Especially because now we have Bart, we have Tim Drake. If you want to bring Connor Kent back, it seems like that's the only part missing of that original Young Justice lineup. I could look forward to Connor Kent reappearing, just saying. But you've got Bart Allen now back. However, one thing that I'm kind of disappointed in is that it ends with Bart Allen running. It's like, yeah, Bart Allen, Impulse, is back. But I kind of wish that it had ended with him meeting Barry or meeting Wally. Instead, it's just him running, and the other speedsters have no idea that he's back, which to me says we're going to get a whole storyline of, hey, there might be some other speedster out there, and they're just constantly running around trying to find each other. They both keep constantly missing each other. We're going to have like 10 more issues of them just going, oh, don't worry, they're going to meet each other any moment now. Any moment now, they're going to meet each other. I was like, I don't need that. I just end with them meeting each other. And then that'll be a great cliffhanger for me to go in and pick up the next issue and go, holy cow, let me find out what happens with Wally and Barry meet Bart. But even if I wish that this issue had ended with the characters meeting rather than just, hey, Bart's back, and who knows how many more issues it's going to be until he actually meets the other speedsters out there and everybody goes, oh, Bart's back. What's new information that we're going to get from him? Even if I hate that we're going to have to wait on that, I just have to stop and applaud how the Flash series has had amazing pacing when it comes to just slowly bringing back little bits and pieces from the old universe. It feels like this entire series, ever since Rebirth came around, has just slowly been going, okay, here's one little piece of information. Here's a new thing that Wally West has learned. Here's a new character who remembers the past. Like, that's the main thing that we all want to see in this Flash series. After that Rebirth one-shot, when Wally came back and he was like, I remember the old universe, We've all been reading the Flash series like, okay, give it to us, give us that old universe again. And I love that this series, they haven't come in here and just gone, here, dump the bucket out. It's all there on the table. But I also love that it's not just been completely teasing us. It has not just been like, oh, you know, maybe we'll get to that at some point in time. Stay tuned, true believers. No, it's not doing that. It has the exact perfect pacing when it comes to just, oh, here's a little bit. Okay, you're starting to get tired and you don't think that we have anything else new planned for you? Here's a new character. Oh, okay, it's been a little while since we've made any progress. Wally has all of his memories back now, and Iris remembers him. Oh, shoot, that's kind of huge. Okay, well, what's going on? Oh, Hunter Zolomon is back. Okay, Bart Allen is back. Okay, and it feels like they have just been slowly pacing themselves, just making sure that they give us just enough to keep reading. But it feels like with Flash War, this was the storyline where they came in here and they just said, yeah, now it's starting to ramp up. Now all the stuff is coming back. Iris remembers Wally. Wally remembers everything. Hunter Zolomon is back. Bart Allen is back. We have mentioned that all the other speedsters still exist and they're in the Speed Force. We are showing you all the memories of the past. Like, it feels like this was the storyline which they came in here and said, okay, no more BSing. No more sitting around and just winking and nodding that something is on the horizon. Like I said, they didn't do that too much. They did that just the right amount to keep me reading. But it feels like now it's like, all right, now it's all starting to pay off. Now you're going to start seeing everything showing up. So yeah, I've been loving Joshua Williamson's run on The Flash, and this really does feel like the moment that we had all been waiting on. It feels like this was the moment in which it was like, okay, now everything that's coming up is huge. Everything that is on the horizon is that stuff that you've been waiting for. In a way, it kind of made me think of Batman issue number 50 from last week, and how at the end of that, they came in here and they were like, oh, here's all the stuff that we've been winking and nodding at for 49 issues before this, and now we're gonna give you a little hint of everything that's coming in the next 50 issues, because we have a 100-issue long storyline planned for this thing. This issue came in here, and it did that as well. They said, hey, here's all the stuff that we've been hinting at for 49 issues before this, and you get that feeling like there's way more planned after this, like we do have something planned for issue number 100, and we got 50 more issues of this to go. Except that with Batman number 50, I read it, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool, all the hinting and winking and nodding stuff, but, kind of feels like I just watched an Ovaltine commercial here. Kind of feels like you had all this build-up and then just remember to drink your Ovaltine, a crummy commercial, that's it. This feels like it came in here, it was like, oh, here's all the stuff that we were winking and hitting and nodding at, all paying off in this one issue. Wham bam, here you go. Big old reveals, big giant bows, big huge climax, all the stuff you've been waiting on. But wait, there's more. And we're going to end by showing you all the other stuff that we have planned for the next 50 issues. It feels like this really came in here and did the thing that we all kind of wanted to applaud Batman 50 for doing, but they actually had the big payoff we've been waiting for at the same time. So yeah, I didn't want to come in here and just, you know, wag a finger at Batman 50 again, but yeah, this really did give me those exact same feelings from reading Batman number 50, except that it gave me the feelings that I think that they wanted me to feel. It gave me the impact that the book kind of wanted me to have. Yeah, okay, that's enough. I'm not going to talk anymore about Batman number 50. Yeah, Flash number 50, huge issue, and I really enjoyed it. It is very intriguing because I don't know what's coming up. I don't know what's going to happen with the Sage Force. I don't know what's going to happen with the Strength Force. I don't know how we're going to get to meet all these other speedsters, how they're all going to come back. I don't know what's going to happen when Barry Allen meets Bart Allen. I don't know what's going to become of all these other speedsters getting revealed in here. I don't know who else is going to get their memories back. And that's awesome. The Flash War storyline did exactly what it was supposed to do. It gave me answers to the questions that had been building in my mind for 49 issues before this one, but at the same time, it gave me future questions for the next 50 issues, but those future questions don't feel tedious, they don't feel overbearing, they don't feel like, oh god, more of these things, because the answers that we got in this storyline felt like a reward. It felt good to get those answers, so it made me look at those future questions and go, alright, let's get started on these. Let's find out what's going to happen with all these other questions. That's how you do something like this, and Joshua Williamson and Howard Porter pulled it off wonderfully. So thank you guys very much for tuning in for another episode of Comic Class. Let me know what you thought of Flash War in the comments down below, or you can always contact me on Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time. Bye.